Okay, this is my review of my CubeControls Formula wheel. As you can see, it's a standard Momo C-shaped wheel which normally retail for about £200. It's the suede version. You can get it in a leather version as well, I understand, but I decided to go for suede. You can see actually already, I've had this now for a month or two. You can see there's starting to get a little bit of wear. I always wear gloves when I'm racing with my wheel. Basically, I've over the years found that with these wheels is that if you don't use gloves and you're just basically holding it and sweating into the wheel, they start going very, very greasy and very smooth, and then you can lose your grip on the wheel, and they don't look as good anyway. So I always recommend to use gloves with your wheel like this. It will keep it looking better for longer as well, and it's all part of the racing experience. Okay, so my wheel has got a quick release on it. I'll just pull it off, and then you can see once I pulled it off, that noise was the sound of the USB disconnecting. That means that obviously this pin in here, or these holes in here, are part of the USB connection. There's 4 holes there, and they connect into the pins at the bottom of the quick release in there. This is a standard Momo quick release, which again you can buy on the internet for a couple £100. This all came like this basically from Massimo. He's got a CNC machine back, which is very impressive, with a carbon plate on the front, and these buttons here are the same sort of grade that you'd have on a Formula 1 wheel, to be honest. Very similar to what you would use on most Formula wheels, if not identical. These are just push button wheels. He's very accommodating for allowing you to change the buttons around. For instance, on here, from the standard, I've gone for 2 normal push buttons instead of the switches that he had on the website. I find that these are much nicer to use rather than switches. On here we've got 2 dials. Now basically they are just a switch which is like a keystroke, so that would be 1 keystroke, that would be another keystroke, but each time you're pressing the same keystroke if you're going that way and pressing a different keystroke going that way. So it works for things like plus and minus, for instance, like I've got on here. On here I've set my function keys, so all the black box, basically when you rotate it around you're going through each individual black box. If I just load up in iRacing, I use the Star Mazda, and this wheel is the same wheel that they actually use on the Star Mazda as well. If I put my wheel on, you see I can move this around. So I'm on lap timing, and if I change that, it's now gone to standings, relative, fuel, tyres, and so on and so forth, all the way around. And within this I can actually, so if I go to tyres, for instance, I can go to select which tyre I want to go to, and then I can adjust that tyre up and or down. You also got a select button to make the change happen if you're obviously out on the lap. I've also assigned a button here for splits, so you see your standard splits if I was actually in the lap. Very useful for learning circuits if you don't already do that. And I've set this button for my telemetry, so I can start recording telemetry if I want to. And this button here, I use this for communicating with other iRacers. This is the reset button, so if you're in the pit lane it will come out to the main screen, or if you're spun or whatever on the circuit it will reset you. Mute button mutes all drivers, so I can concentrate if someone's talking, I don't really want to be listening to it. And of course you've got the pit lane speed limiter as well. On the back, I'll take the wheel off, it's easier to show. You have basically 2 carbon plates here. They're just flat carbon plates. Very good finish on all of the wheel, actually. A very professional finish. The CNC machine back is fantastic, and in fact everything, all the detail is very similar to what you would find on I would say a Formula 1 wheel from 10 years ago or so. Very similar quality, feel, the buttons feel very similar to a Formula 1 wheel. So yeah, basically a simple switch up and down on that side and that side, and then these two here, this is a clutch and this is a clutch. Now both of them do the clutch, so this means that you can set your wheel exactly as you would in a Formula car, particularly something like Formula 1. So you can pull, you can see if I pull this one in, it doesn't go in anywhere near as much as this one, and that's because on here you can see just in there is a lead screw which you can adjust, so you can actually get it to the bite point. So before each race you can actually do the fine adjustment to get this bang on the bite point. So you pull the other clutch in all the way, and when you're waiting at lights you've got this one in as well. You release the right hand one, and then once you start moving then you can release this one, and you should make the perfect start, something that all Formula 1 cars do these days. The other thing about this is obviously because it's got quick release, with iRacing, if you don't have the same USB controller attached when you start the game, then that will mean that you'll end up with a problem, and that means that because the settings have all been set for a particular USB controller, that it won't recognise it and you have to reset it. So whenever you're starting iRacing, always have the wheel on. It's just one thing to do, but once you're in it you can take it on and off and it doesn't seem to make any difference. Okay. The other thing is that as you can see from where the standard G25 wheel came to, it was about here. There's quite a long distance here from the G25 body, which doesn't really, I thought it would be an issue, but it's not really an issue at all, to be honest. You can move it up and down a little bit, but it's not really going to cause any concern. This is ideal for mounting in a cockpit, for instance. I've set my side buttons up so I can do forward and back for my brake balance. I've got a kill switch, ignition starter and all that sort of stuff, so it's, when I make my own cockpit, then obviously that will be just like it is in a Formula car. Okay, so that's about it, all I've got to say about my wheel. It's a very good quality wheel, and certainly worth the money in the end.